Hello and welcome to this brief video about Paper 1 question 5, the comparison question. So, first of all, what is a comparison question? Well, it's a question that simply asks you to find similarities and differences between two texts. Easy enough, but there's a slight twist. The question nearly always reads, compare how the writers present their ideas and perspectives about their experiences. There are sometimes minor changes to that, but that in essence is what the examiners want. And what they're looking for is a comparison of the perspectives of the two writers. So what is perspective? Well, it's simply a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something, a point of view. Now, the how part of the question is important too. You do need to say how you know what the writer's attitudes are, although you don't have to analyse that. More on that in a bit. So, all of that together means that we can rewrite this question as compare the writer's attitudes to their subjects and how you know what they feel. That's actually quite easy. Now, the first thing we want to do is to look at the mark scheme. And this is what the examiners look at when they come to mark your work. There are 3 bullet points that the examiners have to take in consideration on this particular question. And the first is, does the response consider a wide range of comparisons between the texts? If so, you're on for a B in old money, a 6 or a 7 on the modern mark scheme. If you considered a range of responses, a range of comparisons, you'd be getting a 4 or 5. If you considered a wide and varied range of comparisons, you'd be getting an 8 or a 9. So I'm aiming this at about a B level here. What is a wide range of comparisons? Well, probably 5. 5 in 20 minutes is pretty good. Half your time reading and thinking, and then you've got 2 minutes to write up each one. And then you move on to your next question. That's reasonable, that's realistic. The second bullet point is an exploration of writers' ideas and perspectives, including how theme, language, and or structure are used across the text. And this is just reiterating, it is all about their ideas and perspectives. It's not about what they say, it's about what they think about what they're saying, about what they're talking about. Theme comes in here quite often, and of course you talk about language or structure depending on what you've got. If you are aiming for that 8-9, by the way, the variety of your language, the variety of your points would be in bringing in points about theme, language and structure rather than just several points about language. You want to mix them all around. Third bullet point, what the examiners are looking for is that your references are balanced across both texts and fully support the points being made. Well, it's fairly obvious that you're going to have to quote both of the 2 different texts you're looking at. Remember, this is going to use an unseen text and the anthology text that they've paired it with. And when they say across both texts, they really want to see quotes from the beginning, the middle and the end of both of them. You don't really want to focus just on the opening paragraph of both of them, or the opening paragraph one and all of the other one. That's just not going to cut it. They want you to show that you can look at the thing as a whole. More on that in a minute too. Now, to reiterate that a little bit, what are the skills being tested when they examine you? Well, the first and most important is reading carefully and between the lines, picking out key ideas about what the writers are thinking. The second one, and this is often what people tend to focus on, which is a little bit misplaced, is the writer's methods. We do have to understand language, tone, structure and so on, but that's not the primary focus. That's just showing the examiner that you know, or you're telling the examiner how you know what it is that you know. What's led you to make your inferences. You don't have to explain that in any depth, but you do have to have something there. And then the last one is really, it's writing. Although this is the reading paper, and we don't really need you to be creative with your English, we do want it to be clear. We want you to link your ideas smoothly. We want you to be logical and we want to be able to follow a thought process. So please read carefully to start off with, think about it before you start writing, and then just write very, very simply. So let's have a look at how to approach this question. This is one method and it's a pretty good one. Now, as always, you read the question carefully. You should do this with all your exams. We know pretty much what the question is going to be, but they might give you a focus. And if they do, you don't really want to write about something other than that focus. Once you've done that, if there is no focus, by the way, move on very, very quickly. Once you've done that, you skim through both texts again, looking for relevant ideas. Now, if there's a focus, travel, danger, excitement, or whatever, then look specifically for that in both texts. But if there isn't, look for anything at all that shows you what the writers are feeling at any time. Now, remember, in pretty much all of the anthology texts, there is a change of feeling as you go through it. Think about Between Rock and a Hard Place. He starts off confident, relaxed, interested in what he's doing, and he ends up in absolute panic. Chinese Cinderella is almost the opposite. She starts off in a state of mild panic, but by the end she's in absolute ecstasy. She's going to heaven, as she describes London. And nearly all of the anthology texts have this change in feeling, and you want to reflect that in this answer. Does the unseen text do the same thing? Yep, no, maybe. Have a look for it. Now, next thing to do is to pick 2 or 3 key points per text and then cross-match them. That's in your plan. So choose the points you want to talk about and then say, okay, this writer starts off excited, does the other one. This writer ends optimistic, does the other one. And in that way, you should end up with 5, maybe 6 points that you can talk about. And those points will be balanced across both of the texts, 2 from one, 3 from the other. This is a good target. I would try and aim for 3 points from the unseen text, but more on that in a minute as well. And your plan is simply, what am I going to say about this point? Then you write up each point in a structured way. A point evidence analysis or explanation paragraph isn't really needed. What we really want is a point evidence comparison kind of paragraph, which is a pretty similar structure in many ways, but you'll be using words like similarly, whereas, on the other hand, and so on. You don't really need to explain or analyze here. If one writer says, oh, I had a fantastic time, it was wonderful, you can just say, they had a really good time. They use adjectives such as fantastic and wonderful. You don't have to then explain how fantastic and wonderful mean they enjoyed themselves. That's analysis which is not necessary. That is necessary in question 4, where they check your analytical skills, and also paper 2 question 1, where they do that in quite some detail. This one is not so much about your ability to analyze, it's much, much, much more about your ability to infer what people are feeling. Let's have a look at what that looks like when we write it up. Now, you want to start off with a comparison straight away. So, both writers present whatever your focus is. Let's start with that. Both writers present travel as an exciting experience, but they show this in slightly different ways. In text A, the writer describes their journey using positive adjectives like thrilling and liberating, which shows that they feel free and adventurous. So far, so easy. No, we don't have to show how thrilling shows that they're adventurous or liberating shows that they're free. Well, you wouldn't do free and liberating anyway because they mean the same thing. But this is not an analytical paragraph. It's enough to use that evidence and just say what it is that you understand. We're going to immediately follow that by bouncing off to text B, and we're going to use a comparison word. So we'll start our next paragraph. Similarly, the writer of text B uses enthusiastic language to suggest excitement. For example, describing the journey as a chance to explore the unknown. Now, a chance to explore the unknown may or may not show excitement. It doesn't matter. If you've inferred that they're excited and you've got that evidence, this is absolutely fine. How can we make it round it off and make it really good? Well, we found similarities. Now we can look for a difference. If we found a difference, we'd then be looking for a similarity in the difference. we found a similarity here, so we're looking for a difference within this. So our final paragraph, again, using a comparison word at the front, might be something like this. However, while text A focuses more on personal emotions, text B also talks about the challenges of travel, mentioning it was exhausting at times. And it's absolutely fine to say things like, text A focuses on this, without necessarily giving full evidence for that, if it's something it does overall. And of course, if something's missing from a text, you just say it's missing. You can't evidence something that isn't there. And this is one point really quite well written up in a very structured way. We've got a very, very clear similarity. We've got the techniques, the language that they're using, the adjectives that they're using, and then we've got a difference between that. And that is a B all day. And if the examiner's in a good mood, it's an A. You do that 5 times and you will get an A. You do that 3 times, you'll probably still get a B, actually. And it's much easier than you think. It just takes that little bit of thought before you start. So that's what we do. What is it that we don't want to do? Well, there's not that much, actually. We don't want to waste any time. And we don't want to write 2 separate essays. We want to integrate our argument, all our points together. Write about one, write about the next, write about both of them, over and over again. Each point should talk about both of the texts. And please don't summarise what the writers say. Every year I mark somebody and they basically just said, this writer says this writer says this. And it's really irritating because it's taken them quite a lot of time to do that. But again, your ability to summarise is an understanding skill. That's examined in different questions. There are no marks for it here. Don't analyse too much. This is not an analytical question. You don't really need to explain how you know what it is you know. You just have to give the evidence for it and let the examiner then connect the dots. Don't write all of your points about one of the sections of the extracts, the start or the end or something. Make sure that you're using all of both of the text as much as possible. Beginning, middle and end of the unseen. Match that up with your anthology text. That's a pretty good way of doing it. And please, don't waste your time on fancy words. There are no marks for your use of English here. It's a reading paper. So the simple words, similarly, likewise, on the other hand, however, whereas, that's all you really need. Preface most of your points with one of those words and you're going to stay on target. Use simple words where possible. There's no point in kind of dredging up from the depths of your memory some perfect adjective to describe how this person's feeling. Happy will probably do it, or sad, or miserable, or whatever it is that they are. But use the basic emotions. They're absolutely fine for this question. So congratulations for making it this far. 12 minutes of listening to me. As a little reward for those that make it here, here's a little cheeky trick that can help you, particularly help those that find trouble finding the things that they want to write about. Questions 1, 2 and 3 can be a really good source of points for question 5. Now, if you look at them, question 1 is always about the opening couple of lines, question 2's somewhere further down the first page of the unseen text, and question 3 is at the bottom of the first page, normally. If you ask yourself, what does this tell me about what the writer feels? There's a point for question 5. So question 1, find 2 words or phrases that describe the harbour, the jungle, whatever. Those are probably going to be adjectives, or they're often adjectives. And adjectives are often a way of finding out what the writer thinks. The writer says it's cosy. It means he likes it. It's small and comfortable. The writer says it's tiny. Well, maybe they don't like it so much, or maybe they're underwhelmed. Yeah. So basically, look at questions 1, 2 and 3. Look at your own answers and just think about them and say, what was the writer thinking at this point? Then cross-reference with the anthology text. How does the anthology text start? What's the anthology talking about in the middle? How do they feel about it? And then at the end. And this is a way to generate points, which is really, I think, quite easy. If you get 3 points here from the unseen text straight away, then you only have to find 2 more in the anthology, which you should know pretty well. And like I say, Chinese Cinderella, scared, excited at the end, or overwhelmed in the middle, perhaps. You should kind of be able to do 2 points from an anthology text off the top of your head, and then cross-reference and see if it's the same. And if it is the same, great. And if it's not, great. Doesn't really matter, because you can write up differences as well. So you can practice doing that, and that is the key. This is not necessarily a question that you really need to be doing over and over again in full. What you do want to do is practice making the points. So very good luck with that. Please do very well in your exams, and try to enjoy the whole of the summer.